Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be the MBTI 101 series, if that's what I called it. So today we're going to be breaking down what exactly is sensing versus intuition. In my previous videos, I spoke a lot more about MBTI being more than just the 4 letters, and why cognitive function is where the gold is when it comes to understanding personality types. So if you still think that MBTI is a way for you to stereotype people and for you to just have a quick classification of everybody's preferences, it is way more than that. If you truly want to understand other people, and especially trying to understand yourself on a deeper level, understanding cognitive function is going to be the key. So in my previous video, as a quick recap, if you have not watched those videos, I'll link it down in the description box below. I highly recommend to go through in sequence because then all the videos will make more sense. So in summary, we spoke about cognitive function being something that is unique to each MBTI type. I like to call it brain tool. All of us have different kinds of brain tools. So within the 16 MBTI types, there are types that have similar brain tools, but obviously each and every one of the 16 have its own unique makeup of their cognitive function. And then this links to them having the 4 sides of the mind. So 4 sides of the mind essentially is what we call it as, when you take the assessment, the personality test, that is only 25% of your mind. From that 25% where you have your 4 cognitive function, this is how you take in information and make decisions. It's how you are the way that you are, your nature. And then you will then be able to unlock what is your subconscious, your shadow, and your superego. So that is going to be a whole different series. So let's focus more on the cognitive function that is within your ego self, which is your personality type. Facts versus possibilities. This is literally what I would relate to sensing versus intuition. Why is this so important? Because whether it's personal or especially in work life, when you are in a professional environment, a lot of times we have misunderstanding or conflict. It's because we don't see eye to eye, because we fail to understand that there are different cognitive function that would see things differently. Therefore, what you perceive may not be what other people perceive. And yes, it is oversimplifying things. How is there only 2 ways of seeing things? I think having a framework is going to give you a good guide if you are already finding that understanding human being is extremely complex. So the first base is to have some sort of a framework. So the framework that is being surfaced in depth psychology or MBTI, it's sensing versus intuition, facts versus possibilities. For people who have high introverted sensing and extroverted sensing, so you can stereotype this and say that those MBTI type that has S in their 4 letters, you would focus more on concrete details, you are more on facts, and you're more on gathering based on the 5 senses, meaning to say what you taste, what you feel, what you hear. So these are all concrete. It's exactly what things as it is, which is why we like to call it facts. It's the reality. Therefore, there's always a lot of relations when it comes to people who are high in sensing function, is that they will say that they are very much in the moment, they very much focus on what is happening in the now, or they're very much based on the past, what has happened before, which is a reality, a memory that is guiding them to see things for what it is, versus someone that is intuition, which is the N, focus, whether you have high introverted intuition NI or high extroverted intuition, which is NE, or you have N in your MBTI type, you would prefer to always perceive information based on patterns, trying to connect the dots, and trying to see the possibilities rather than thinking about or focusing on what is. One of the analogy that I like to give during some of my lessons is that you can think of it as a camera lens, right? When you are trying to take photo of something, some people really like to go for the overall feel of the image or the photo that they want to focus on. So let's say we are taking a photograph of a garden. You will be focusing more on the overall vibe of the garden. What's the big picture? That's the key word. The big picture of this image, and what could it suggest, rather than focusing on the small little details that is within the frame or the pictures. Those are the sensing people. They will be more meticulous about, okay, the flower has to be in a certain color, it has to have a certain shape, it needs to be a certain angle. Now, don't get me wrong, sensing and intuition sometimes can cross over because it's, at the end of the day, it's how we perceive things. And MBTI, it's not for you to limit people and say that just because you have high sensing, it means that you don't think about possibilities. So one of the greatest misconceptions is that people would make the claim that MBTI types with high SI or high SE, they lack creativity and innovation because they don't think out of the box, because they think within the box or think about the box. And then the intuitive people are more creative and they are totally unrealistic. So that is the extreme end. I think the beauty of all of this is that, remember, cognitive function, yes, it shapes what our personality types are, but we are able to use both of it. It's just whether you are aware of it or whether you put into practice. This is where self-awareness comes into play. This is where understanding what are your inferior type, the types that are not very developed, your cognitive function that is not very developed, and how can you be more aware, practice, and develop it. So essentially, this is why we are all learning about cognitive function. So going back into sensing versus intuition, something that I learned from the certification course that I took was quite memorable. So Mr. Robin, the trainer at that point of time, did like an exercise with us where he actually drew a photo. He didn't draw a photo, it was just a picture of an apple. And then he asked all of us in the class, which is, I think there was 20 of us, a mix of S and N people, or a mix of people with introverted sensing, extroverted sensing, or those with NI or NE. And it's so interesting that those people with high NI or NE, or have N in their MBTI type, they would say something that is beyond what the apple is. So the S people, the sensing people, would just literally describe the apple for what it is. It's an apple, it's in red color, it is sweet, it is a fruit, it is, just literally what the apple is, literally what the box, as I was mentioning. But then the N people will go beyond, outside the box, or maybe inside the box, outside the box, right? They would say something like Snow White, or they would say something like poisonous. So it's describing what it's possible rather than describing what it is. I hope this kind of gives you a bit of surface level to differentiate sensing versus intuition. Now I want you to put it in a context where it's at a workplace. If you are someone that is very based on concrete details, facts, and being very structured, it helps you in ways where when you give instruction to people, especially when you are managing a team, you're leading a group of people, when you are describing something, you will be extremely detailed and meticulous. You even go step by step. Maybe your instruction will look like the IKEA, when you buy IKEA furniture and then you get a set of instruction that literally tells you what to do. But sometimes it's confusing, Anyways, you are very detailed in giving instruction or information. So Some people will appreciate this because they do need all the details. They do need all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step by step in order for things to be done. But there's also another side for the sensing people to consider. If you are leading a team where you have a lot of people who are more N focused, N-I-N-E, intuition, you might face difficulties where the N people would prefer to think about possibilities, having a bit of leeway for them to have their abstract exploration of finding different ways to do it. So if you were to box them up and give them you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they might skip it. They might try to jump into the end of it, and then, or sometimes one of the most interesting thing that I've observed is that I've seen a manager that is very much detail oriented. So this person likes to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and be very explicit with the details. By halfway through, she already lost like half of the people because we were all not just confused with the details, but we were all very like distracted and trying to focus on, okay, so what is the end goal? What are you trying to achieve? Like, what is the big picture? So I think the lesson learned here is that for S people, they need to always balance out with the N people, always need to balance out with the S. So even the intuitive people, which they are, I think their strength is as a leader or a manager, they are great at being like visionaries. They will be able to make people imagine the best possible outcome of achieving something, and they always talk about big picture. But often they also get some negative feedback where people would say that, oh, they are so visionary that we don't even know how to get there. There's no guidance. It's just inspirational talk and illustration of what the end result is, but nobody really talks about, okay, so can we now talk about the framework or the structure that will actually help us to get there? So that's why I think mastering, maybe a bit too much, trying to develop one side that is lacking is going to help you in many ways to become a great communicator. And also being able to identify who are the sensing and the intuition type so that you can cater your communication to them. Anyways, guys, I hope you found this video useful. If you want more examples of this and tips, right, let me know in the comment section. It really helps me. The battery is about to go off. So thank you guys for watching and stay tuned to the next episode. Bye.